6:25 now. You ask, we answer. More and more people are getting vaccinated and business restrictions are starting to roll back. With more and more things getting back to something resembling normal here in Connecticut, what precautions will be taken? Fox 61's Amanda Rouse has more.
Connecticut is still going over mask recommendations and what will happen when all business restrictions are lifted May 19th, which brings us to this question. April wrote, I read online that masks like seat belts will become a permanent thing for all of us. Is that true? I don't see people accepting that.
I don't think it's true. I think that we're getting back to a more normal space. So if you think about where we were last year this time to where we are now, we're in a much better place. We have a more understanding of the science of this. You know, we saw the study that's coming out of masks that challenges 6 feet versus 3 feet rule, and with great efficacy. So, you know, we're making significant strides and progress.
He also says we have to appreciate what the masks have done when it comes to lowering the spread of respiratory diseases. He says there may be times in the future when a healthcare provider recommends a patient wear a mask when it's appropriate. If you have a question about COVID-19 or the vaccine, email us at share61@fox61.com or text 860-527-6161. We continue to answer your questions and post answers on fox61.com under You Ask, We Answer. With the Fox 61 vaccine team, I'm Amanda Rouse.